Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Candice. I know I've got a bunch of new subscribers. I'm glad you guys chose to stick around and see some more videos. I've gotten a lot of new views lately, so if you are new here and this is your first time or second time watching any of my videos, I do all of my videos from a Christian perspective because I am a Christian woman, so I pray at the beginning of my videos and stuff like that. Most of my advice is from a Christian perspective, okay, but it can be utilized by anyone. Honestly, you don't have to be a Christian to utilize frugal tips and advice, right? So if you want to stick around, great. Just know that yes, I'm going to be speaking from that sort of a viewpoint, okay? It's how I roll. Today, we are continuing on in our Frugal Christian Woman series. We are giving tips on things to do with the kitchen today. Before we start, I'm going to pray for this video and then we'll dive right in, okay? God, thank you so much for each and every single person that's watching and listening to my voice right now. I ask that you would bless them immensely. Give them the tips that you want them to hear out of this video and help them run with it to make their lives more frugal, easier, simpler, you know, whatever the case may be in their particular situation. I ask that you would give us all wisdom and that this video would be yours instead of mine. In Jesus Christ's name. Okay. So, kitchen tips, okay, when I started writing these down, I realized that there were a lot of them, so we are going to break them down, kind of like I did with the wardrobe video. We're going to break them down into level 1 tips, which are going to be tips that are a little bit on the easier side. You're not doing a bunch of life changes, routine changes necessarily to achieve these tips. Level number 2 will be a bit farther into that. You're going to be doing more things that take a little bit more time, a little bit more effort. And then of course level 3 is for my frugal ladies who have been doing a lot of the frugal stuff that's already in level 1 and level 2, and you're ready for some new challenges or things that just take a bit more time and effort, right? None of these tips are particularly difficult, okay? A lot of these tips, you'll probably hear me say it and you'll be like, yeah, that totally makes sense, or I've heard that before, right? But again, I wanted to throw all of these in here just so you have different levels of tips and different ones that might suit your lifestyle better than others, okay? I don't expect anybody to like take all of these tips and try and incorporate all of them into your life like over the course of like a week, okay? Because that's crazy, right? For me, how I did this with my kitchen, you know, is I started taking 1 or 2 of these things at a time. And I incorporated 1 or 2 of them at a time into my routine over the course of weeks and months, right? And once I felt like I had mastered 1 or 2 of them, then I took some more in, right? And it's a change that happens over like years if you're going to incorporate all of these tips, right? I mean, if you wanted to be totally ambitious, you might be able to change all of these things in like 6 months, but for the rest of the populace who is kind of like me and it takes a while to, you know, get used to a new routine and get used to new things, it might take a while, okay? Take whichever one resonates with you, run with it, try it out, tell me what you think. If you have tips that are different than what I'm about to tell you, throw them down in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I do hold all my comments for review because there's always 1 or 2 that are just unnecessarily disrespectful, and I just don't think that the community needs to see those, so I delete those, okay? But as long as they're respectful, I'm gonna pop them up down below so everybody else can see them. Let's get started. Okay, level 1 kitchen tips, right? The first kitchen tip, these are in no particular order within the levels, okay? But the first kitchen tip that I found for me helps reduce my spending, okay, was at the store, all right? They have different types of packaging for different things, okay? And a lot of the times you can get something like oatmeal, right? You can get oatmeal in a giant bag, right? Or a giant box, a smaller bag, a smaller box, or you can get them in individual portion-sized packages. Now, the thing about the individual portion-sized packages is that you are paying for that packaging, right? So if you actually look at the ounces of how much oatmeal you're getting, say, this applies to a lot of other products too, but however much oatmeal you're getting, you're paying more per ounce because those individual packages are a part of the cost, as opposed to buying in a bigger bag or case and then portioning it out yourself. So one of the easiest ways that I found was to get more bang for your buck, more food for your dollar, was to get it in bigger sizes that don't have as much packaging, right? So nixing the individual portion size packages, because those, you just pay more for them because the company is paying more to package them that way, right? Easy peasy. It's a swap that you can make without having to like change your whole lifestyle, right? You can take your oatmeal and just take a scooper out and scoop out your individual portion for the day. Easy peasy, right? All right. Number 2, talking about ounces, right? Or if you are anywhere else in the world that uses metric, you know, the way you guys roll with it, price per ounce or price per pound or price per egg or whatever it is, paying closer attention to that, okay? When I was young and, you know, my grandparents took me to the grocery store, right? One of the first things that I was taught was, hey, don't just look at the price that's on the sticker. Don't just look at the package. I want you to look, and if you look at most price stickers, if you zoom yourself in really close there, most of them will have the price of the product. Plus, they will also have it broken down into price per ounce. Okay, so say the smaller package versus the bigger package. Okay, the smaller package might have 8 ounces, it might work out to be 35 cents an ounce, right? The bigger package might have, you know, 2 or 3 pounds worth in there, but it works out to be like 20 cents an ounce for the same product. Go with whatever is cheaper per ounce, or like if you're going for eggs, okay, I'll do whatever the price is divided by the number of eggs, right? So sometimes for me it is more economical per egg to get the 12 pack, and sometimes it's more economical to get the 18 pack, depending on which one is on sale and what the price is at the time. But if you're looking at the price per ounce, a lot of the times you can save a lot of money, because sometimes it's the bigger package that's better per ounce, sometimes it's the smaller one, just depending on how it works out and what's on sale and what isn't. Good thing to look at. You can save money by doing that. It's not much more extra work to just go look at that little sticker at the store, right? And if they don't have it on the price sticker, like say if they have like a sale price or something on there, you can easily just pull out the calculator on your cell phone, right? And just put in the price and divide it by the number of ounces. So if it's like $3.99 divided by 8 ounces, $3.99 divided by 8, and then it'll give you what the price is per ounce. It's easy enough to do, and it does save you a good deal of money in the long run. You get more bang for your buck. Number 3, in the kitchen. I find, especially here in the States, right, we are advertised a lot of different gadgets for the kitchen. And if you look at a lot of these different gadgets, a lot of them end up doing the exact same thing or a very similar thing to other gadgets that you already have in the kitchen, right? My advice when it comes to gadgets is to, before you decide you want to purchase any new gadget, okay? Doesn't matter what the gadget is. Go look in your kitchen at all of your other gadgets and see if there is anything that does the same thing or that can replace, you know, that can stand in the gap for what it is that you want to buy, right? So for me personally, I used to own a food processor and stuff like that, but eventually that broke, and before I went out and decided to buy a new one, right, I was like, well, is there anything else in my kitchen that's already going to do this? I mean, I don't like having to wash all the pieces of the food processor anyway. These things cost at least like $40 to $50 at the time when I was looking at them. So I was like, you know, honestly, what I use this for the most, I can use my hand mixer, or I can use a knife. I can use things that I already have, and so I ended up not purchasing another food processor. Why can't I say that word today? A processor. When mine broke, right? And while you're in there looking at all of your gadgets, let's face it, there are a lot of one-hit wonder gadgets that stay in our cupboards for a very long time. They do not get pulled out very often. If you have some of those in there that have been in there for like 2 years, that waffle maker that you never use, or that cutesy little egg muffin cooker thing, whatever it is that's sitting in the back of your cupboard, right? If you haven't used it in more than a year, you're better off selling it or donating it or gifting it to somebody, right? Saves you a little bit of space, less stuff to clean and dust. All right, number 4 in level 1 is having an extra on hand. What do I mean by this? So when I purchase, say, ketchup, just as an example, right? When I go to the store to get it, I make sure that I have enough to have one that's in use, or like one in the fridge, right? And then I always make sure that I have an extra in the cupboard, okay? That way, when the one that is in use gets done, I don't feel like I have to go rush out to the store to go get another because there's one in the cupboard. And when I pull the one that's in the cupboard into the fridge, then I can write, ketchup on my grocery shopping list for the next time I go out to the grocery store. That way I will know to get another one for the fridge and another one for the cupboard. This, I found, has curbed impulse buying, right? Because when we feel like, oh my goodness, I just ran out of something, you want to run to the store. And usually you're going to the store without a list. You're going to the store to get that one thing, and then you walk out with 5 or 10 other things. You know what I'm talking about, right? And totally blow the grocery budget for the month. So for me, this has helped curb impulse trips to the store, okay? And by not going to the store as often, I don't spend as much on gas either, of course. It's a good thing to do if you have, an extra bit of money that you can put an extra bit in the cupboard. It just saves you having to run to the store, and it's nice because then when you run out, you're like, oh, it's good. I got another one already. Okay. Number 5 in level 1, I think our last one in level 1, is shopping with a list. I know this is kind of self-explanatory. A lot of people say, oh, all the list is up here. Okay. I like going with a list because guaranteed, if I do not have a list, I will forget one of the things I went in there for. And then I will walk out with probably 5 other things that were not on that list, right? Having a list helps you just focus. Having a list helps you be like, okay, this is what I need. Okay, this is what I'm specifically budgeting for. This is what I need to get when I'm here. Now, of course, with that being said, occasionally when you go into the store with a list, you will see something else that, say, you purchased normally, right, that happens to be on sale this week. And if it's something that you already regularly purchase that is on sale, say for like 30% off of the normal price, yes, I will totally renege on the whole only buying what's on the list to get some extras of whatever it is. Because I figure if I get it on the sale price, then I'm not going to pay full price for it later when I actually need it. You know what I mean? That being said, having a list does help focus. It helps keep you on budget a little bit better. It's a good thing to do. All of those are easy ones. You don't really have to change your lifestyle to do any of those. Moving on, we are going to level 2, okay? Level 2 are ones that take a little bit more effort. You're going to be putting a little bit more time into these things, okay? Number 1 in level 2 is making what you can yourself. Now, this can go from anything from potato chips to bread. Salad dressing is one that I found when I first started finding ways to be more frugal. Making your own salad dressing is so easy, especially all the vinaigrettes, balsamic vinaigrette, red wine vinaigrette, honey mustard vinaigrette. You can make all the sorts of salad dressings for much cheaper than you can buy them in their individual bottles at the store. But, so pick something that you use a lot, okay? Whatever it might be. It might be salad dressing, it might be bread, it might be tortillas, or whatever else. See what the price is that you're paying for it at the store. Try making it yourself. If you can make it yourself for half the cost or a third of the cost, it's totally worth it to figure that out and put it into your routine, right? Now for me, making all of the salad dressings myself was an easy switch because I usually keep those vinegars and things on hand anyway, and oil, like olive oil and stuff on hand anyway, so then all I have to do is just mix it up myself each time I want a salad, or mix a jar of it and put it in the fridge. Takes 5 minutes and very well worth it for the cost, right? One of my guilty pleasures is potato chips, but recently with inflation, potato chips have skyrocketed in price. I'm talking like $5 for a bag that is mostly air, and you maybe get like 2 or 3 potatoes worth of chips in there. I can't justify it anymore, guys, so I will go and buy the 10-pound bag of potatoes for $5 instead of the bag of potato chips, and make my own potatoes in 8 million ways. I will make chips, roast them, fry them, stick them in a stew. You can do so many things with potatoes. I love them. But every time you make a swap like this and incorporate making something yourself, right, your cost of like the actual money going into it goes down. Now, of course, you are going to be spending more time making these things. So there is a balance here depending on what your lifestyle looks like, okay? If your lifestyle is crazy busy, it may not be worth it for you to do more time versus the cost. It just depends on what your lifestyle is. That's totally up to you. I find that making a lot of things myself is worth it. Like, I make my own breads and all sorts of stuff. It's really easy to do it once you like start getting into it. It just takes a while to learn it, but totally worth it. Makes your resources go farther, right? And when we're talking like Christianity biblically, right, Jesus said to be a good steward of our resources, right? So our money, our time, the things that we have in our homes, like we're supposed to be a good steward of those things. And I find that doing these things myself and bringing my cost level down helps me be a better steward of my things. Number 2 in level 2 is packing your own lunches instead of buying lunches out, right? Going and eating out these days costs a lot. Even just for like lunch or getting something out of a vending machine costs way more than actually packing your own lunch and bringing it yourself. Yes, does it take a little bit more effort to do so in the morning? Of course, but it's worth it in the long run. Price-wise. Wrapped into number 2, I'm also going to say having less prepackaged foods, okay? Or like prepackaged meals, right? Like if you go to the store, you can buy like these, like the Lunchable things and like the microwavable dinners and stuff like that. Besides the fact that those are not particularly healthy for you, a lot of the times those just are not worth it for the cost, right? You're paying $2 or $3 for a little thing that has meat and cheese and crackers in it, okay? Where if you actually got the meat and cheese and crackers separately and then divvied them up yourself, it would be much cheaper per little container, right? Prepackaged foods tend to, especially recently with inflation, are going up in price. They are just going up in price, like skyrocketing. It's crazy how much prepackaged food is these days, and it's just cheaper to do without it, which leads into number 3, having more whole foods. Okay, so buying the bag of rice or buying a bag of dried beans, buying, the potatoes themselves instead of, say, a box of instant potatoes or potato chips or, frozen hash browns, right? You can, if you buy the actual whole food itself instead of the prepackaged version, I mean, even like buying whole potatoes versus frozen French fries, right? You're going to be paying less overall for the amount of food that you are getting. Now, of course, when it comes to like buying the whole food versus the packaged food, there is again a time cost here. So buying the dried beans, okay, as opposed to buying a can of already cooked beans, you're going to be soaking the beans and you're going to be cooking them yourself, right? But overall, for the amount of beans that you can get, you are getting like a whole bag worth of dried beans, which is like a lot more portion sizes than one little can of beans that are already cooked, right? These are just more ways to do it. Again, you're going to be investing more time, but it's totally worth it. Just saying. For some of us anyway, not everybody. Number 4 is having less one-use wonders in your kitchen, okay? I know a lot of people love, like, the cling wrap and the, you know, plastic baggies and the paper lunch sacks and, you know, tin foil and parchment paper and all of that, right? There are things you can use to not use those. Those tend to eat up a good portion of money, especially if you're using them regularly. Instead of a paper lunch sack, have a lunchbox. You know, instead of the plastic baggies, you can use a Tupperware, right? Instead of tin foil and stuff like that, you have a lid half the time. Like, the only time I usually use tin foil is if I'm gonna like wrap something in the oven, right? But usually you have a lid to whatever pan you're putting in the oven, depending on what it is. Use the lid, right? Parchment paper, just scrub the pan when you're done instead of using parchment paper. Yes, of course, this is more time involved in cleaning, of course, but it's just better overall and makes more sense instead of throwing all of this plastic into the garbage and into a landfill, which is not good for the planet, right? That's kind of our job. When God put Adam and Eve in the garden, he said to take care of the planet, right? To subdue it, be fruitful, multiply, all that. But a part of the job was taking care of what he had given us. So throwing all of these one-hit wonders into the trash after using them once is just doesn't seem like the best way to be taking care of the planet. So like I said, I use Tupperware in place of a lot of those things, and lunch boxes, whatever else. One-hit wonders can also apply to the gadgets. Like I said, don't buy one-hit wonder gadgets, right? Buy something, like they advertise so many different things, like weird little choppers and stuff like that. And I'm like, you could use a knife or a box grater that you probably already have in your kitchen instead of going and buying the one-hit wonders. Instead of one-hit wonders, purchase things that are going to last, right? So instead of a one-hit wonder gadget or the cheapest pan you can buy that's like non-stick, right? Because you think the non-stick is going to be easier for your lifestyle. Can't tell you how many non-stick pans have made their way through my family, and they die very quickly. So for me personally, I buy things that are going to last longer because it's a better money investment over time spent using it, right? So I have cast iron pans. Some of those I got new, some I got thrifted. Again, you can thrift one and bring it back to life. They're a beautiful thing. They're much easier, in my opinion, to deal with than a non-stick skillet. But buying things that are going to last, buying the knife that you can resharpen and use over and over again as opposed to the cheapy little bad one that's going to die very quickly and not be useful anymore. That sort of thing. Moving on. Number 5, our last one in level 2, is to hand wash your dishes. I know this one sounds weird because there's all these dishwashers that advertise, being more efficient than washing dishes by hand, saving more water than washing dishes by hand. If you know how to wash dishes by hand and to conserve the water, not just like have the water running the whole time you're washing your dishes, it is much more economical to do it by hand. Yes, it takes more time. Like I said, there's always a time cost payoff here. But when you're doing it by hand, you're not letting the dishwasher run for 2 hours to do one cycle. And that's 2 hours of electricity, right, that you also have to pay for. Plus paying for, you know, the soaps and the salts and whatever else go into your dishwasher. Softeners and whatever else you gotta throw in there. To each dishwasher its own. But when you're doing it by hand, yes, it takes more time, but you're using usually less soap, hopefully. You're usually using no electricity because you're just doing it yourself, and you can use less water. It makes it cheaper overall. A lot of dishes are better if they're hand washed. Some things shouldn't go in the dishwasher, guys, anyway. Like those Tupperware lids should not go in the dishwasher. You know, cast iron skillets do not belong in a dishwasher. You know, stuff like that. A lot of the things are better if you just wash them by hand because you get them cleaner that way anyway. Moving on to level 3, okay? These ones take more forethought, they take more planning, they take more effort. Overall, they are definitely more frugal in the long run and can save you a great deal of money, okay? But these are ones that you are going to be investing time and effort into, okay? These are not just, oh, I'm just going to do this overnight and be done with it, you know? It's in my routine now. Okay, we've got 6 tips in level 3. Number 1 is to grow what you can, okay? Food prices are insane. Insane. No matter where you live right now, they're pretty much insane. But no matter how much space you have, even if it's just, say, a small window box, okay, or like a little pot that you can put next to a window in your house, okay, or in your apartment, or whatever it is, you can grow some of your own food, okay? You can grow herbs, you can grow lettuces in those little boxes, right? And these things will add value to your life, right? Lettuce is expensive at the store for the amount that people like that you can grow for the same price. Same thing with herbs. Herbs are insane. Like to buy a little jar of herbs. I grow most of my own herbs and then just dry them for the winter myself. So much cheaper and better than having to buy like $5 or $6 for a little thing at a time. Okay, but no matter how much space you have, whether you have a giant yard and you can grow fruit trees and fruit bushes and all of that, or you have a little bitty space, you can grow something to help offset your cost, your grocery costs, okay? And on the plus side of this, it's more nutritious when you grow it yourself. You're picking it when it's ripe, so it has, you know, all of the flavor in it, whatever it may be. I personally like to go towards things that are perennials, so things that grow back every year or things that will reseed themselves and grow again, okay? So I don't have to plant them every year. So like I have strawberry plants, I have blackberries, blueberries, gooseberries, raspberries, elderberries. I have some fruit trees, like I grow things like the herbs and stuff that come back every year, right? All of those things are already established in my garden, personally. And those things just produce every single year, and I harvest them and then bring them into my house. It's about as easy as that when you get it established. Yes, it takes some forethought, it takes some planning, but if you grow the things that just come back every year, it's so worth it to have like a fresh, ripe strawberry that's picked when it's ripe and not picked like 2 weeks early to ship it to the store. Did you know blackberries are actually sweet if you pick them right when they're ripe? Like you get the ones from the store and they're like super tart, and even the organic ones, they're super tart, and like that little inner part is like super hard. But if you actually pick it when it's ripe on your bush, on your vines, that little inner part like basically dissolves in your mouth and it is actually super sweet. It's amazing the things you discover when you start growing things yourself. Totally worth it. Probably one of my favorite tips is growing things yourself. Number 2, eating out. Okay, eating out should be a treat, not a I do it every night, every other night, or every day sort of a thing. Okay, like let's face it, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and so on, if they went out to eat, it was an occasion, right? It was something where they got dressed up and they went out and it was something special, okay? These days we eat crappy fast food and things that are eating out and we're paying more money for them, but you're not really getting an experience out of it and it's not special, so it doesn't feel like it's something extravagant, and yet it can eat up all of your budget for the month, right? I think honestly going back to having eating out be something that is a special occasion makes it more worth it. It makes it more fun, right? It also helps your budget, duh, if you're not eating out all the time. But having it be like, say, a once a month thing or a once every couple months thing, depending on what your budget is, right? Instead of a cheap, I'm just going to go to Taco Bell or whatever, you know, if you save up a little bit and then go someplace that you can actually sit down to eat and have an experience, it's much nicer, it's more worth it, and it honestly, it just feels better, right? Because then you don't feel so guilty about spending the money all the time, and you can actually like support somebody by like giving a nice tip to your waitress. Okay, moving on. Number 3, in your kitchen, let's face it, most of the garbage that ends up in your garbage bags is food waste, okay? When I bought a compost bin, just like 15 bucks, right? And plopped it out in my yard and started diverting all of, you know, like potato peels and carrot peels and eggshells and banana peels and all of that out to the compost instead of putting them in garbage bags. Okay, my garbage like that I put out every week got cut down by over half, which means I'm using less garbage bags, which is better for my pocketbook. Now, the bonus benefits of this is if you're already doing a garden or you plan on doing, you know, some sort of garden-ish sort of thing, even if you're just planting flowers outside, okay, having a compost bin where all of your scraps are getting turned into free fertilizer that you can then plop in your garden and not have to buy fertilizer because it's free, because it's already food that you already bought that's just turning back into dirt. It's a beautiful thing. It's great for your garden, great for your health, great for your pocketbook. Moving on. That also wraps into the whole foods thing if you're buying whole foods, right? So if you've already gone through level 2 tips and you're buying whole foods, right? You're buying the potatoes instead of the potato chips or the frozen fries. You're then going to have those scraps that will go in the compost that make the free fertilizer, right? Number 4 is to make as much as you can from scratch, okay? Time is going to be spent, obviously, but for the product that you get from making something yourself, from the amount that you get from making it yourself for, say, the same price as if you would at the store. If you're going to spend this much at the store, try making that same amount cost-wise at home. See how much more you get for your bang for your buck, right? Like making bread at home. Okay, I can make 3 or 4 loaves of bread that is much better, smells amazing in your house, right? Tastes fabulous and is better for you. I can make like 4 loaves for the amount that it costs to make like 1, maybe 2 at the store. Making things yourself tastes better, better for you, better for your pocketbook because it's almost always cheaper to make it yourself unless you're making like some fancy pants sort of Food Network recipe that involves some ingredient that's like $30, which most of us are not doing that. So, you know, basic meals, but scratch made ones, again, helps keep you frugal. Number 5, buying locally. Okay, now this may take a little bit more effort, right? So I personally go out to my local orchard, right? And they do things like they have their own beehives. So they sell honey, they sell maple syrup, they do fruits and vegetables in the middle of summer, right? They have apples in the fall and peaches and stuff like that, right? I will drive farther, right, to go buy locally because I have a grocery store like less than half a mile from my house, okay? But I will drive farther to go buy locally from local farmers, local orchards, you know. If you're buying things locally, number 1, you're not supporting a giant corporation, which is, you know, giving you subpar products for ridiculous prices. You're supporting someone local, okay? You are paying for someone to get their child ballet slippers, or you're paying for them to get new tires on their car as opposed to lining a CEO's pocket, right? When you're buying locally, you are supporting the local economy. You are buying things that are grown closer to home, so they are picked when they are closer to being ripe. If you don't want to have a garden, right, this is the next best thing. Okay, if you don't want to have a garden of your own, buying locally from local people who are doing gardens or farms or whatever else is going to be the next best thing. It's going to be better for you. You are helping them put their kids through college or whatever else they're doing, you know, because let's face it, a lot of cities and a lot of things are pushing farmers out. They are trying to overtax their land to get them to sell to developers. Like, I know people who've gone through this, okay? So when you purchase from them, you are helping them stay in their ancestral homes. You're helping them stay doing what they love, right? It makes so much more sense. I would rather give my money personally to someone that I know as opposed to some giant nameless faceless corporation that I don't know who's getting the money in that scenario, especially when they're all using self-checkouts instead of people these days. Okay, our last one, level 3, last tip, number 6, is to make your own cleaners. The other thing that, you know, eats up a lot of money in a kitchen is all of the cleaners that people buy. So people will buy a cleaner for their oven, people will buy a cleaner for their countertops, they'll buy a cleaner for the windows. You've got, people even have fruit and vegetable washes that you can buy at the store. Ridiculous amount of stuff. And honestly, you don't need all of those. They're coming up with all these products because they want to sell you things and make you buy things and spend more money. Duh. They want a profit. Honestly, in the kitchen, I clean my oven, I clean my stove, I clean my countertops and my windows. Right? With either vinegar, baking soda, or both. You've got tough, hard, gunked on yuck in your oven. Sprinkle some baking soda and vinegar on it. Let it sit there for a while. And then scrub. It comes off fairly easily. Right? I cleaned like a 50-year-old oven that hadn't been cleaned in a long time doing that. And it worked out great. Counters, again, use some vinegar. Dilute it with water. Put your old lemon peels in there to make it smell nicer. Let it sit for a few weeks. And then spritz it all over your counter. Wipe it down. Safe for family, safe for pets, safe for kids and babies, safe for you, and not going to, you know, gunk up your nose with all of the chemically foo-foo-y smells and whatever else they got going on in cleaners these days. Much cheaper for you. Buying baking soda and vinegar is like cheap. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, that is all the tips I have for today. Sorry this video is so long, but there were a lot of them. If you have any others, like I said, throw them in the comments. I'll review the comments and throw up the ones that are great. See you guys next time. Bye.